Welcome to the Crimson Engine. My name is Rubidium. I am here with Alan Mash today. We are going to check out the differences between the Canon C200 and the Canon C300mk2. So Alan, you've had the C300mk2 for a couple of years now?
Yep, I got it right when it went to $12,000 range.
Okay, so that's twice what I paid for the C200B, which is what I have.
Right, and then right after yours came out, this dropped to 10, and I was pissed.
But you've had it for a couple of years?
Yeah.
Yep. Worked with it on a couple hundred shoots?
Probably, yeah. I mainly use it for gimbal. I started doing gimbal work, and I just get hired for gimbal work. I have a Ronin that carries it, and I get hired for that mostly.
Now, probably the biggest difference between these two is 4K 8-bit 420 MP4, 10-bit 422, and 10-bit 444.
12-bit 444 2K.
And then if you want to jump up to 12-bit RAW
external.
No, internal.
I have to do external.
Yeah, you can do RAW external on this one, RAW internal on this to CFast.
Right.
Dual CFast slots.
Yep.
Single CFast slot.
Yep.
You can't really tell because this is covered in all kinds of gear. It has the TV Logic screen. It has the shape cage, the shape mat box. It has the handle, the V-mount Bebop battery plate at the back. It has one CFast slot and two SD slots. You have two
CFast
and one SD.
Right.
If people out there are thinking of buying a Canon cinema camera or cinema camera generally, and they're kind of torn between the two of these, where would you say, what are the strengths and what are the weaknesses?
Well, if you want a broadcast ready camera, this is it.
Yep.
If you don't want a massive bit rate to deal with, like tons of file.
Yeah.
This thing, even at the lowest setting at 50 megabits per second, it's 10-bit 422, which is broadcast ready. So I usually shoot in that, unless it's needed for the next step up in HD is 160 megabits per second.
So how much of the 50 megabits per second do you get on the 512?
Oh, man.
Hours.
Almost 3 hours. Yeah, I did a comedian the other day. We did his whole show. I never cut. It was 3 hours. He just said, keep rolling.
Yeah.
And we're filming in LA on his birthday. And it's unbelievable. Man.
Broadcast ready. So you can do the same thing with this, with two SD cards, but you're only getting 4K 420.
420, 8-bit 420.
Or you can swap multiple CFast cards and shoot, like I have, multiple 512 gig cards, and then transcode the RAW down into ProRes 422, because you and I both have you have the XC15 or XC10?
10.
I have the XC10, and the 422 that comes off that isn't nearly as good as the 420 that comes off this.
No, it's not.
Because the sensor is much smaller, the processors aren't as good. So really, it's like, they say that, bitrate doesn't lie. Well, it sort of does.
Yeah, I mean, and that sensor, you can burn that sensor. You can overexpose that sensor very easily. I noticed about that. You can really crank these puppies, overexpose them.
Yep.
But that little XC10, XC15, you can really overexpose that sensor.
Do you, sort of a supposedly design defect of both of these cameras is that the vent port is right where
the ear
you would if you were shooting handheld, right where your ear is.
Yeah.
So when I have this handheld, I wear earphones.
Do you really? So you don't hear it?
Well, so it doesn't blow straight in your ear, which is kind of annoying.
My cure for that is running a monopod. I usually hook this to a monitor and I have it holding right in front of me instead of a shoulder rig. I don't like shoulder rigs very much. Sometimes I use them, but I have a monopod set to where I put it on a belt right here, and it kind of and I can look through that eyepiece.
So like a pole holding kind of rig,
yeah. And I got it set up with a adjustable and everything.
I use a 7-inch display just because I've came from the DSLR world where the screen wasn't that much bigger than this. You get like a 1.5 inch screen.
Your Mark III over there is about the same as that. Right?
That's right. And it would drive me crazy because it's just too small, I think, to get critical focus, too small to get a sense of what it's going to look like. So if people are interested in shooting weddings, that's one of the first thing, that's one of the most, the biggest markets. I would probably say C200. Less expensive. Obviously, you're gonna pay it off much quicker.
Right.
You don't need broadcast quality. I'd say most weddings are delivered in 1080p.
Yes. Yeah.
So 4K 420 is going to be plenty for for a wedding.
And you can do that in MP4.
Exactly.
A little higher bit rate.
Yeah, you're not going to have to go out and buy expensive CFast 2.0 cards,
right.
Which this needs to shoot RAW and this needs to shoot anything.
I mean, if you want to grade it in MP4, you can still do C-Log, right?
Yeah. You can do C-Log 3.
Right, not C-Log 1.
You can do C-Log 3 or YDR on this, same as on this.
Yeah, and I think it's 50 megabits per second in HD, and then 150 in 4K.
Yeah.
And it's MP4 420, but that's enough for a wedding. It's beautiful. If you burn in the standard picture profile on here, it's going to be beautiful.
Yeah.
If you
got your exposure and your white balance right.
Right.
The other thing is with this one, if you're delivering in 1080p and you don't want to mess around with big 4K files, which slow down a lot of people's computers, mine included, you can get an external recorder and record 10-bit 2K 422. Just get a little like the Atomos Ninja Star. You could only do the 2K 10-bit 422 over SDI. So you need an SDI recorder, but you can still trigger it, use the internal monitor, still trigger it over the record prompt. So when you hit record on the camera, it starts recording on the recorder as well.
Right. And you can use the Canon monitor for monitoring if you bought
That's right. If you buy the non-B version, the full price version, you can use that.
Right. Yeah.
So you have you tried this on the Ronin S?
Oh yes, yeah. I was just talking about that. That's what I'm talking about when I'm holding it like that with the Ronin S. Without this, I'm looking through that little eyepiece.
So the Ronin S with an extendable handles.
Yes, yeah. I sometimes use it with the one that comes with it, and I put in a 14-inch monopod under that, and I put it in a belt right here. Gotcha. I literally use it like a monopod.
And you haven't had problem with the EVF or the larger size of the C300 not clearing on the Ronin S? I
do a little bit if you're doing some really dramatic moves, but anytime I use it like that, I'm just using it for someone standing there talking, maybe a little movement,
Gotcha.
Usually events or something, but not. I haven't used it in like movies or anything.
Have you tried underslinging it with
this?
Yeah.
No.
I've done mine with this with mine.
Did you really?
Yeah, it works great.
But you had to set it up like that.
The problem is you can't put it down. That's the real issue, right?
I mean, but you can't undersling from top, and you can do it.
Because I have the B, I'm able to go from top to bottom, and it doesn't have the EVF that gets in the way.
Yeah, this
doesn't have that guy that gets in the way. So what lenses do you have on this?
That is my main lens. I bought this thing and I paid for it 100 times over. This is a 17 to 55 2.8 EFS. And it's L series glass. Canon told me this is L series glass in here, but they couldn't put the red ring around it because it's an EFS lens made for crop sensors.
Yep.
But this is the main. You shot a movie with this, right?
I did. I shot my Brooklyn tie with that.
Right.
The issue we had with it though was a couple of scenes were in the rain, and it was a rental from Adorama, I believe, and it was a couple years old. And as it got wet, the focus gear stopped working, so we had a remote follow focus on it, and we kept blowing focus. We didn't know why, and then we realized that as we were moving focus, the friction the water had affected the friction, so you would move it and nothing would happen.
I wish Canon would update this to like a modern, a quieter motor.
That's right.
The same. You could use the same glass, but the motor's pretty loud. I hear it sometimes.
C200mk2. It's been rumored for a long time. Hasn't come out yet. No one really knows why. It was meant to come out at the end of this year, maybe at NAB, so that the C300mk3 will come out at the end of next year.
I've heard about that and its specs, but I haven't heard about the C100.
Upgradable full frame.
I know. I know. It's like you don't need the C700 then, right?
Hey man, thanks for coming in and bringing your camera and talking cinema cameras. Alan Mash, everybody. Links in the description, as well as links to all this stuff if you want to check out what the current prices are on Amazon. I've got a Patreon now for more in-depth sort of like film tutorials. Check that out in the links below, and I will see you next time.